We all know the feeling, right? You're bombarded with information. Headlines, articles, books, so much to learn, so little time.
Totally. It can be overwhelming.
And you're here because you want to cut through the noise and get to the good stuff, the ideas that can really change how you see things.
Absolutely. And today, we're going deep on one of those powerful ideas. It's a core concept from Stoicism. But don't worry, this isn't about lectures or dry philosophy.
Nope. This is about practical wisdom you can use every single day.
Right. We're talking about the idea that you're not owed anything.
Yeah, I know. At first glance, it might seem a little harsh, maybe even a bit negative. But trust me, there's a lot more to it.
It's actually a really liberating way to think. It can help you build resilience and inner peace like you wouldn't believe.
We've been exploring this concept based on an article, also titled, You're Not Owed Anything. And wow, it's packed with insights.
It really makes you think.
And that's what we're doing today in this deep dive. We're going to break down the key takeaways from that article and see how letting go of expectations, which we all have, can lead to real strength and a deep sense of freedom.
I think that's something we all crave, right?
Absolutely. So where do we even begin with this idea of not being owed anything?
Well, the core principle is that life, people, circumstances, they don't operate based on what we expect or what we think we deserve.
Right. It's like we walk around with this unspoken assumption that things should go a certain way, that people should act a certain way towards
And that
us.
we're entitled to certain things just because, well, just because. The Stoics challenge that whole mindset.
And it's not always easy. It can be hard to let go of those expectations,
Yeah,
especially when we feel like we've earned something.
I hear you. The article actually starts with this great quote from Epictetus. He says, "Don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do."
Whoa. Boy, that's powerful. And kind of a mind bender.
It is. But think about it. What if we could accept reality as it is, not as we wish it to be?
That would be huge. But how does that translate into, like, practical advice? What's in it for our listener?
Imagine how much frustration you could avoid if you stopped expecting things to go your way all the time. You'd be so much more adaptable.
That's true. You'd be able to roll with the punches.
Exactly. You'd be able to focus on what you can control, your own actions and reactions, instead of getting thrown off by every little thing that doesn't meet your expectations.
Okay, that makes sense. So how does this idea of not being owed anything apply to, say, relationships? That seems tricky.
Oh, it gets really interesting there. One of the things the article digs into is the idea that no one owes you understanding.
Yeah. We all want to be understood, right? It's a basic human need.
It is. But we often expect it without necessarily doing the work to communicate effectively. Or we expect people to just get us intuitively.
Yeah, like they should just know what we're thinking and feeling.
And that's where we run into problems. The article points out that everyone's living their own complex life. They have their own thoughts, feelings, priorities.
So expecting them to be perfectly in tune with ours all the time is unrealistic.
Exactly. And it often leads to disappointment. And it can be so frustrating.
It is. But the article doesn't just leave us hanging with that frustration.
Mm.
It actually offers a really useful quote from Marcus Aurelius. He says, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength."
I love that quote. So much wisdom packed into those few words.
Right. It's like, instead of demanding that others understand us, we need to focus on understanding ourselves. And that's where our real power lies.
It's about taking ownership of our inner world rather than relying on external validation.
It makes me think about those times when I felt misunderstood. Maybe if I had focused on communicating more clearly.
Or simply accepted that you can't control how others perceive you, it might have been easier to let go of that hurt.
Right. And it's not just about understanding. The article also tackles loyalty, which can be a touchy subject. It says that people don't owe you loyalty. That's a hard one to swallow.
It can be. Especially if you've been raised with the belief that loyalty is something you earn, something you're entitled to.
Yeah, like if you're loyal to someone, they should be loyal to you in return.
But the Stoic view is a bit more nuanced. They see loyalty as something that's built over time, through mutual respect and actions. It's not a guarantee.
And they're not saying that loyalty isn't important.
Not at all. It's just that it's not something you can demand or expect as a right. And there's another great quote from Epictetus about this. When someone does you wrong, remember they act according to their own principles, not yours.
Okay. That's helpful.
It's a reminder that people operate based on their own values and motivations, which may not always align with ours.
So instead of taking it personally when someone doesn't live up to our expectations of loyalty,
Hmm.
we can try to understand their perspective.
Exactly. It allows us to respond more objectively without getting bogged down in hurt feelings or resentment.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this whole not being owed anything thing can be empowering.
It really is. It shifts the focus from what we think others should be doing to what we can do ourselves.
So let's talk about how this applies to life in general, beyond relationships. The article gets really thought-provoking there. It talks about how life doesn't owe you closure.
Oh, that's a big one. We all seem to crave closure, especially after difficult experiences.
Yeah, we want things to be tied up neatly with a bow.
Huh.
Explanations, apologies, a sense that everything's been resolved.
But real life doesn't always work that way, does it? Things are often messy and unresolved.
So true. You can have relationships end without clear reasons, or go through painful events that leave you with more questions than answers.
And that can be really hard to accept. But remember what Epictetus said. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters.
Right. So even if we don't get the closure we crave from external sources, we can choose to create our own sense of closure.
And that's where the real healing begins. You don't have to wait for someone else to give you permission to move on.
Powerful stuff.
Mm.
And then there's this expectation that the world owes you recognition for your hard work. That if you just put in enough effort, success and recognition will follow.
It's a common belief, isn't it? We're often told that hard work always pays off.
But sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you can pour your heart into something and get no recognition for it.
And that can be really discouraging, especially if you've tied your self-worth to external validation.
But Marcus Aurelius offers a different perspective. He says, ambition means tying your well-being to what others say or do. Sanity means tying it to your own actions.
In other words, true fulfillment comes from doing the work itself, from living in alignment with your values.
Not from chasing applause or accolades.
Exactly. When you let go of the need for external recognition, you're free to pursue what truly matters to you.
And you're less likely to be disappointed when those external rewards don't come.
Because your satisfaction comes from within.
Okay, I like that. And this next point really hits home, especially in our success-obsessed culture. Success doesn't owe you happiness.
Yeah, we're bombarded with messages that say if we just achieve this or that, we'll finally be happy.
The promotion, the big house, the perfect partner, it's like a recipe for happiness.
But the Stoics would say that's a recipe for disappointment. True happiness is an inside job.
And who better to remind us of that than Marcus Aurelius? He says, very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking.
Boom. Mic drop moment right there.
Right. It's about cultivating a mindset of gratitude, presence, resilience. Those are the things that bring lasting happiness.
Not the external achievements.
And that's so important to remember. You can be incredibly successful by society standards and still be miserable.
Absolutely. And you can be facing challenges and still find joy and contentment within.
It's all about how you choose to see the world. Okay, moving on. The article also talks about something we all have a limited supply of: time. And guess what? Time doesn't owe you more time.
That one's a reality check for sure. We tend to act like we have an endless amount of time.
We put things off, we procrastinate, we think there's always tomorrow.
And then one day we wake up and realize how much time has slipped away.
There's a Seneca quote that's pretty sobering. He says, "You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire."
Oof. That one stings a little.
Right. It's calling us out on our tendency to act as if we're invincible, while simultaneously being afraid of so many things.
It's a reminder to live each day with intention, to appreciate the present moment, because that's all we really have.
Yeah, putting things off because we think we have forever is a recipe for regret.
I agree. And finally, the article addresses something that's really hard to grapple with. The universe doesn't owe you an explanation when things go wrong.
Yes, the age-old question. Why me?
It's human nature to seek reasons and explanations when bad things happen. We want to make sense of the world.
But sometimes there are no easy answers. Sometimes things just happen.
Randomness, misfortune, they're part of the human experience. And as Marcus Aurelius puts it, everything that happens is either endurable or not. If it is endurable, then endure it. If it is not, stop complaining.
Okay, that's direct. I like it.
It's a call to action, to focus on what we can control, our response to difficult situations, rather than getting stuck in the why.
Because dwelling on the lack of an explanation can keep us stuck in suffering.
Right. Real strength is about finding ways to cope and move forward, even when we don't understand why things happen the way they did.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I think it's clear that the Stoic idea of not being owed anything is about a lot more than just accepting the bad stuff.
It's about a fundamental shift in perspective, from entitlement to empowerment.
From demanding things from the world to taking responsibility for our own experience.
And when we embrace that shift, it can be incredibly liberating.
We become more resilient, more adaptable, less prone to disappointment.
And ultimately, we cultivate a deeper sense of inner peace that doesn't depend on external circumstances.
All of this wisdom comes from the article, You're Not Owed Anything. We've included a link for you to check it out if you want to explore these ideas further.
It's definitely worth a read.
And as you go about your day, here's a thought to consider. Is there an area in your life where you're holding on to an expectation that's not being met?
Maybe a relationship, a career goal, or even just a general sense that life should be a certain way.
What if you could let go of that expectation? Could that create space for something new, something even better?
The Stoics would say that true strength lies not in demanding what we think we deserve, but in navigating the world as it is, with grace and resilience.
And that's a powerful lesson for all of us.
I think so too.